Um, for chapter 12, do you believe that technology is inherently good or bad for organizational ethics? Um, Obviously, like everything in the world, there's good and bad. Um, there's two sides to everything. Um, but if I had to choose, I'd probably say that it's probably inherently bad for organizational ethics, mainly because I think there's more possibilities for unethical behavior to occur with the use of technology rather than good things to occur. Um, you know, um, there's a lot of like small things in the business and in the work environment that can happen, such as sexual harassment. You use your personal devices, um, and harassment, sexual harassment, different things like that. You can also use it to your own personal advantage, and businesses can use it to track people. There's a lot of sort of debate going around on whether how companies um, use technology to track people. I actually watched a video the other day talking about like how Walmart was able to use like an algorithm to track what people were purchasing and be able to tell if they were pregnant. So it was for like women. So they could tell that if they purchased this, this, and this, that they were going to be pregnant. And then as a result, they advertised for like baby stuff. And it was actually really, really interesting. But that's just an example on whether or not, you know, your beliefs on that. But I just think there's a lot more opportunity for negative, unethical behavior to happen than good stuff to happen. And I know that there is good things to happen from technology, such as whistleblowing. Technology makes that a lot easier to be able to safely and effectively report unethical behavior. Before technology, that was a really big problem and fear that people had. Um, but I just think the bad outweighs the good in terms of like ethics and technology. There's just more opportunities. And then discuss in detail any three major ethical issues regarding technology. Um, so obviously, one of the big ones that's going around is privacy. Tracking people, what they buy for targeted advertising, um, uh, using personal data, collecting personal data, things like that. And it seems to be that every company nowadays is collecting the personal data for whatever reason. And at the end of the day, we don't really know what they're using it for. Um, but in order to use those things, we have to accept their terms to use their, or for them to allow, um, for us to allow them to use our personal data and track it. So, there's been so many times where, I talk about with my friend about buying something, and then all of a sudden I get an ad for it, and I'm like, what the? And, you know, and this data definitely can be misused, mishandled, stolen too. When companies take these things, personal data, um, and they don't properly store it or have the security, then hackers can steal it, or maybe they misuse the information themselves. So that's a big ethical issue. Then we got security, which kind of goes on about the hacking thing that I was talking about. That's big. Um, this can happen in all sorts of settings, but it can happen in the business world too. Um, you know, a lot of the times accounts can get hacked, or people can get scammed from different emails. And basically, like, there's just a lot of like potentially bad things when it comes to security, and you really have to, as a business, you really have to make sure that everything's locked up, especially when you're taking people's personal data. So that's another one. And then, oh, I had it. Where is it? Oh, basically what I talked about for the first point, about how the misuse of personal devices in the workplace for harassment and sexual harassment and things along the lines of that. Are people, is there a guideline that stops people, and are there consequences to stop people from that unethical behavior? It's something that is really, really important in the workplace, because people want to feel safe and secure at their job. And this can happen at all levels within the company, from the very bottom everyday workers to the top CEOs and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on personal devices that can be seen as definitely unethical. And then how an organization can mitigate the impact that technology has on ethical culture. So basically, I think it starts with developing a good code of ethics and defining within your organization what is acceptable. Oh my gosh, what is an acceptable use of technology versus what isn't? And that's your base sort of right there. I think training can build on that too. Once you have your foundation, then you can build on it to training and how to properly use these devices. I feel like a lot of the times people might kind of roll their eyes at that kind of thing, but it's something that needs to be done, because if they don't, then the employee's going to be like, I didn't know, I wasn't properly, something along those lines. So if they're trained, if they're educated and things like that, then then they know what's unethical and what's ethical. And then continuing on with sort of the whistleblowing, reporting unethical behavior, encouraging that, and rewarding when people sort of report that thing, because that's something that's not acceptable, and the people who are doing those things, you don't want those people in your business. And I think in terms of a company standpoint, you can also use technology to do research on your stakeholders. Maybe your suppliers aren't ethically sourcing some of your materials, so that's something that you can use. But I think there's a lot of things that you can do to help mitigate the impact of technology, the negative impact of technology. And I think there's a lot of ways that you can enhance the ethical environment within a business through technology, through the training and the education and stuff like that, leading by examples from the top down in terms of how to use technology. But yeah, that's chapter 12.